Welcome back to TCM. I'm Dave Karger. Up next, George C. Scott stars in an action-packed gangster movie that's reminiscent of the kinds of films that made Humphrey Bogart a star in the 1940s. From 1971, it's The Last Run. Scott plays Harry Garms, a retired criminal who used to be a getaway driver for mobsters in Chicago. He's been away from that life for several years and now lives an isolated existence on the coast of Portugal. But he gets the chance to prove he hasn't lost his touch when he unexpectedly receives a job offer to drive an escaped convict across Spain and into France. What he doesn't bargain for is that the man also wants to bring his girlfriend along, and nobody can be trusted. George C. Scott made this movie at a high point in his career. He had just finished playing General George S. Patton in the 1970 Best Picture winner Patton, which also won Scott the Best Actor Oscar, although he famously chose not to accept it. He was against the idea of pitting actors against each other and singling out particular performances for awards. Still, Patton gave Scott's career an important boost, and he starred in 3 films released the following year, one of which was The Last Run. This was a film he enjoyed making, in part because it introduced him to the woman who would become his wife and partner for the rest of his life, Trish Vanderveer, who plays the ex-convict's girlfriend. You'll also see Scott's wife at the time, actress Colleen Dewhurst, appearing with him in the film as a prostitute who offers him companionship. As I said, this is a movie that harkens back to the crime dramas of the 1940s, and that may have had something to do with the man who was originally attached to the film as director, John Huston. But Huston didn't end up directing the movie. He bowed out early on, and the film was directed instead by Richard Fleischer. From MGM in 1971, also starring Tony Musante, The Last Run. John Huston was supposed to be the director on The Last Run, and he began preparing the film with George C. Scott. This was the kind of movie that fit Huston's expertise, but even though they had worked together before, the director and star wound up arguing so much going into the production that Huston finally backed out. He was replaced by director Richard Fleischer. Fleischer was the son of the trailblazing animator Max Fleischer, who was responsible for bringing legendary comic characters to the big screen, including Betty Boop and Popeye. Richard Fleischer became an accomplished filmmaker in his own right in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s with big-budget adventures and epics like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Vikings, Fantastic Voyage, and Tora, Tora, Tora. But before he broke into the big leagues, Fleischer cut his teeth directing low-budget crime dramas at RKO. Those early films, like The Narrow Margin from 1952, informed many of his later crime movies, including The Last Run. Coming up, it's time for this week's 2-for-1 presentation. Director John Carpenter joins Ben Mankiewicz as they introduce a double feature Carpenter has chosen, beginning with a landmark horror movie from 1931.
Next on TCM, Frankenstein, then The Curse of Frankenstein, and later, Black Tuesday. Mark the date. Noir Alley is on tonight.